Like I visited the British Museum and I saw all the world's artifacts over there. It kind of upsets people to see everything over there, but the Queen holds it in trust. Like if it was still in Baghdad, it would get stolen and looted and be in a private collector's collection, and it's all there for the world to see. And from that perspective, I'm okay with it.
My great dream is that sometime in the future we have a stable enough world where we can actually share these things in, share them in different museums, and actually have a swap bin. Basically, everyone share what they got, but I don't see that happening for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I know they have virtual tours and all that. How accessible is it? Like, if I wanted to go see all of the museums in England, I mean, is there a lot available online that you can go and view?
Some of it is available online, yes, certainly. I mean, just Google them and see what you find. There's a lot of books online as well from the British Museum and the British Library.
Yeah, the museum's all free though, Chris. I mean, you can walk into the British Museum without paying a dime and see everything. Yeah.
Yeah, all the sort of municipal museums are free. There are some private museums you have to pay for, but they're normally pretty reasonable as well anyway.
Yeah.
My dad used to work in the NHS. My sister was born in Dover. Yeah, back in the 80s.
Recently had an experience with the NHS this week. Raging toothache on Monday. Phoned up at 9 o'clock in the morning in the dentist chair at 9:45. Treatment at 2:30. Job done.
That's pretty good.
And got to go back to have other treatment in the future, but no pain now, all gone, all sorted.
It's good.
Good to hear.
And no death panels either.
We're working on this. They're still in committee. I don't know we have a few museums in this area, not much in the Norfolk area, but like in DC, when I lived close by there, I tried to see as much of the Smithsonian as I could. I still never got to the Air and Space Museum out in Dulles, the new one they built. But like I went to the National Art Museum, their National Art Gallery, and there's some amazing paintings in there. And it's like, I only had like an hour to go in and see a bit. I always wanted to go back and just see spend several days and just hit all of the museums. It's right there at the mall. There's so many, and most people don't bother to go. They don't bother to go see them. They're all right there. They're all within walking distance. You can take the metro, get off, and walk through all of them.
The biggest art gallery is probably the Tate, and they've actually got sort of sub branches around the country. So they move their artwork around to all these different branches. And again, it's free. You can just walk in and have a look around anytime you want.
Yeah. And it's funny how some of the oldest paintings, like there's some Dutch paintings from like the 1300s or something, but they're tiny. I mean, you're a co-host, Brian. There's some that are no bigger than this computer screen, or smaller, and it's like,
actually,
they're tiny.
I think the Mona Lisa is actually about half the size of the computer screen here.
Right.
It's a very, very small picture.
Yeah.
Morning, Brother Clark. How you doing? Back on the road again. Morning, Brother Clark.
I'll just be back.
All right. Yep.
There we go. Good morning. How is everybody doing?
Good. We're talking about art, museums, and what the British have stolen from the world. For safekeeping. Brian, one of the coolest experiences I had, I got a chance to work down in Orlando, Florida, which is where all the attractions are and all that. And I don't even went when I was there. But I was working before my son was born. So my wife was living here in Northern Virginia, and my company was flying me down there. It was like a loan between contracting firms. I was supporting them on stuff. And every 2 weeks, I could either fly home or she could fly down there. So we just kind of alternated so I could go and tour as much as I could. But I found the Salvador Dali Museum in St. Petersburg, and it was amazing. I bought a membership just so I could go like every other week and just go down and he painted 2 huge paintings in this one room for the museum. And one is hallucinogenic Toreador, which is all of the bowls and all the little colors. And the other one is I forget the exact. It's the Christopher Columbus one,
Right.
where it has all of the flags and all that. And you walk into this room, so like it's a normal height room as you walk in, and then there are ramps on either side that slope down, and the majority of the room is like 14, 16 feet high. So it could accommodate these huge paintings over in one corner. They're like in a corner of the room, one on each side. So like you walk in up here from a normal size hallway, normal size room, and then the room just gets big to accommodate those two. And then there's some other paintings around there, but that room alone was like worth it just to go in and see those two up close, because they're like 12 feet high. It's amazing. But Dolly had some incredible work, and that was a real fun experience. I went there as often as I could. And apparently the guy who started the museum was like owned an auto company in like Detroit, and just discovered some of Dolly's work and just bought it. And he just kept buying it. And then when he retired, he had amassed so much that he's like, well, screw it. I'm just going to go build a museum in Florida where I retire and open it to the public. And that's how most people get to see his work, but it's really cool. Yeah, always enjoyed that. Rick, we haven't heard from you yet. How are you doing? You want to say hello?
That could be a no.
No, I guess not. All right. Well, good to see you, Rick, even if you don't want to talk to us. How is it? Oh, almost 10. So other than the reunion, not much going on here. We did do an interesting. Now, Brian, you're in the Ancient Accepted Rite, are you not?
Again, we wouldn't normally call it ancient and accepted, but yes.
I did say it. Isn't that it? What is it? What do you call it?
I don't know what we call ourselves. We call ourselves the Freemasons because we were first.
No. The Scottish Rite that you have.
No, not Scottish Rite. No, we don't call it Scottish Rite. It's Grand Lodge of Scotland.
No, that's a different thing, and you know that.
We don't have a Scottish Rite in the same way as you do. The nearest thing to Scottish Rite we have is what we call the Rose Croix, which is one of the Scottish rites that you have.
Okay.
Apart from that, we don't play that game.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Ancient and Accepted Rite is in France, I think. It's similar. Anyhow. Well, anyway, in the Scottish Rite, which you're at least familiar with, the 32nd degree is one of the longer degrees. Yeah. And we typically do like reunions that are over a weekend. So like either Thursday or Friday or both, and then Saturday. And we confer at least 5, but up to like 7 or 8 degrees in the course of like 3 days. And I just never liked the idea, just because each degree gets such short shrift, and the candidates are just completely brain dead by the time we get to the final degree, which is to me the most important one, not just because I'm the degree master, but because it is like the culmination of everything they've been going through. But we finally convinced the PR who runs our Valley. So we just had a Thursday and a Saturday where we did the 4th through the 30th degrees. And then next stated, which is July 21st, we'll do just the 32nd degree. So it's neat that it's on a night by its own. So
it's fascinating it's fascinating how you do these degrees so fast.
Right.
I mean, I will never ever get to 33.
Right.
We'll probably never get to 32, 31, or even a 30.
Right.
Because I have to go through the lodge, position after position before I even be considered that for that.
Right. It is quite different.
Or anything else.
Yeah. I had nothing to do with how it's set up. I mean, I inherited the system we have. But yeah, it seems funny how we talk about it after, it's this journey that you must make. And part of I do the tent scene, which is where you talk about all the different camps, and all the different degrees. And it's really neat because like it's about 10 minutes by itself, but it kind of summarizes everything you go through in the Scottish Rite and what they all, in a very like one sentence each, what each degree means. So it's really kind of cool to tie it all together. And I talk about a journey, you are climbing the summit and all like this. It's like, yeah, but it's basically you show up for a weekend and you get all of it. You go from 4th to 32nd in like 3 days. And then they've had 1 day conferrals, which are really bad, but that's like 5 degrees in 1 day. Come in the morning, get the 4th, the 14th, the 18th, the 30th, and the 32nd. And it's just, I think it's nuts. But yeah, then I read that in other countries, you get through the 14th maybe, and then you wait, and then eventually you'll get the 18th. I think that's actually much better, and that kind of shows that you've devoted yourself to the right, that you've earned those other degrees, but that's not how we do it here.
Over here, we would jump from the 3rd to the 18th. So you get those degrees read out and be conferred on you just as you're standing there. And then hard work starts.
Interesting. Yep. Well, let's see. It's 10:03. We have a very small audience today. Sorry, Brother Tehrani. I can never judge. I never know one day to the next what's going on.
I like it to be more conversational, so the small audience is really cozy and comfortable.
Absolutely.
And it's going to go on YouTube, I guess.
Yes, yeah. Everything goes on YouTube.
Whoever wants to see it can see it there, and yeah.
Absolutely. Damn. I was going to bring up something before I presented you, and it slipped my mind. I think I should write stuff down when I think of it, but I had something I was going to post to the group, and I totally lost my train of thought. So I think we're going to go right into your, good. My brother for next meeting just confirmed that's good. So we have a small group, so I'm going to go ahead and start then. I want to welcome everyone to Virginia Research Lodge's unstated meeting. Today is June 25th. It's hosted by Virginia Research Lodge number 1777 in Highland Springs, Virginia. My name's Chris Douglas. I'm the junior warden and webmaster and your host for all things online and Zoom and such. I think everybody here is a regular, but I'll go and run through this anyway. I just posted in the links in the chat our Facebook group where you can find all of our papers. We have a weekly research paper we publish every week. And by the way, recently I finally got my good brother London had some scans that he'd been sitting on for a while. He had them on a backup drive. He had to go find them for me. But I've got about 20 going from like the 2000s, I think 2013, 2018 to bring those online. But I'm slowly gathering all of our archives for our 70-year history and putting all our research papers online, one every week. And we will mail those to you, we email those to you, and they're available on our website and on our Facebook page. The next link is to our Lodge website, then our YouTube channel where all of these unstated meetings get posted, and finally my email address that you can contact me to sign up for the papers. I've really enjoyed doing the papers over the years. We've got about 1,800 people who get the email every week and about 1,900 on the group now. So it's really quite a large audience we're reaching, and that's really neat. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. The more supporters we have, the better, and share with your friends and all like that. I'm going to introduce Brother Parvez Tehrani, who will give us a presentation today on the Manitoba Legislative Building, a sacred temple at the heart of North America. And he probably has a better title than the one he gave me originally. But this came up because Brother Tehrani had given a talk in back in February on, let's see, where you at? The Chartres Cathedral and the Preservation of Sacred Knowledge. And he had a few pictures he had of the Manitoba Legislative Building, and then inspired him to go put together a separate talk just on the architecture and the Masonic symbolism to be found in a very public non-Masonic building. So we're happy to have him back with us again. This moment, I'm going to go and turn it over to Brother Tehrani.
Thank you, Chris. As I mentioned, I like it to be very conversational, so it's very easy over here. If you can't understand my accent, just stop me. And if you, at any point in time, you have questions, comments, or you want me to clarify something, just stop me and we can talk about it. Let me share my screen. Okay. Oh, something went wrong. Mm.
Maybe you're pointing at the wrong screen.
Yup. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the Manitoba Legislative Building. This presentation would not be possible without the efforts of this man. His brother, Frank Albo, one day he was driving past the Manitoba Legislative Building and he noticed sphinxes on the building, Egyptian sphinxes. And he wondered, what are these sphinxes doing on the prairies? And that inquisitiveness led him to a 10-year study of the building. And he studied the building under a Government of Canada grant. And the stuff that he's uncovered there led him to publish this book that he's holding, the Hermetic Code. And once he published his findings, people who had worked in the building for 30, 40 years were shocked. They had no clue. They always knew the building was a little bit funny, that there was something there in it. I mean, but they just had no clue as to, all the research that he published, and it was quite shocking. And to this day, he gives he gives a tour of the building called a Hermetic tour, and that is on my bucket list, and it should be on yours too. Hopefully after this presentation, after we go through it. So I just want to pay tribute to him, because all of this would not be possible without his efforts. Last time I showed you, before I started the presentation on Chartres Cathedral, I talked about the secrets hidden in plain sight. And this time I want to talk about another concept. I call it layers of understanding or levels of understanding. According to the Kabbalah, there can be up to 7 levels of understanding. So I showed a version of this slide the last time. The latitude of the Great Pyramid of Giza encodes the speed of light. And this secret has been hidden in plain sight for 4,000 years. I mean, however old the pyramid is, or you think it is. So, okay, so this is why the pyramid is where it is. So that it could, the latitude of the pyramid could encode the digits of the speed of light. However, there's another level of understanding. The pyramids are where they are because, the pyramids are at the center of the landmass of the earth. It's at the navel point of the earth. So there are 2 reasons why the pyramids are where they are. First of all, it's there so that it could encode the digits of the speed of light. And the second reason is because it's in the center of the earth. I showed this slide when I talked about Chartres Cathedral. It shows the Ark of the Covenant being transported on a wheeled cart. And the implication was that the Ark of the Covenant was buried under the foundation of Chartres Cathedral. That is one level of understanding. There's another level of understanding. The direction that the cart is rolling, a few feet away, there is a statue of this lady. This lady here, right in the center, surrounded by saints. She's standing on an African slave. She's a character from the Bible. Does anybody want to take a guess as to who she might be from the Old Testament? She is
Ruth.
Sorry? No, she's not Ruth. No, that's a good guess. Ruth, it's not Ruth. Only 2 books in the Bible named after women, Ruth and Esther. But this is not Ruth. This is the Queen of Sheba. She's standing on an African slave. This supports the theory that the Ark of the Covenant is actually in Ethiopia, and it's here in Aksum, Ethiopia. For the Aksumites within the amongst us, this lends support to the theory that the Ark of the Covenant is rolling in her direction. She's a few feet away from the direction the ark is rolling in. And the theory is that the Ark of the Covenant is in Aksum, Ethiopia. Every Ethiopian I've ever met is adamant that they have the Ark of the Covenant and it's here. So I just wanted to introduce the layers of understanding, because we will talk about it in great detail in the presentation coming up. So I want you to keep this in mind and hold that mindset as we go through the remaining slides. The Manitoba Legislative Building. Brethren, it is my pleasure and honor to present this building to you, not just as a Mason, because it's an incredible piece of Masonic architecture, but also as a Canadian, because it's a timeless piece of Canadiana. This is the Manitoba Legislative Building. It's the grandest of all the legislative buildings across the country. It has been called a temple masquerading as a government building and an encyclopedia of sacred knowledge in stone. It was conceived in 1911 when Winnipeg was at the height of its power. If you wanted to go anywhere in North America, chances were you would transit at Winnipeg. Winnipeg lies in the center of the transit point for all goods traveling from the Atlantic to the Pacific. So it became a major hub, and it was a boom town when this legislative building was conceived in 1911. But unfortunately, something else was built in the year 1917 that made the transportation of goods from the Atlantic to the Pacific much quicker. Does anybody want to take a guess as to what that was? It was the Suez Canal. And with the, I see Brian putting his hands up. So with the opening of the Suez Canal, Winnipeg's dominance waned. Goods could be transported to Pacific ports in a jiffy. Very good for Vancouver, but not so good for Winnipeg. Sorry, links to the craft. The principal architect, Frank Worthington Simon, a British gentleman, was a Freemason. And he believed that architecture had the capacity to reform the soul. He was deeply inspired by the tenets of Freemasonry. And every premier of Manitoba from the year 1870 to the year 1967, an unbroken span of 97 years, was also a Freemason. So if you look over here, you will see the two sphinxes facing due east and due west. These are the two sphinxes that started brother Frank Albo. By the way, once he did the research on the building, he joined Freemasonry, and he's now brother Frank Albo. He noticed these two sphinxes, and this started him on his journey of researching the building. On the cartouche of the sphinxes are this inscription. In hieroglyphics, the inscription reads, "To the firm and everlasting manifestation of the sun god Ra, do your work." The inscription basically extols the sun to do its work. to bring the seasons, to grow the crops, to warm the earth. But there's something else about the inscription. The same inscription can be found on the cartouche of Thutmose III. And why is Thutmose III important? Thutmose III is important because he is the godfather of all secret societies. He founded the first secret society, or mystery religion as it was known then, along with his wife on April 1st, 1489 BC. Almost 3,500 years ago. And he was also a great builder. So that's why the Freemasons revere him. He was a great builder and he built over 50 temples during his reign. Now, so that's why he's on the building. Freemasonry is not the only secret society that claims ancient Egyptian heritage. These two are examples of other secret societies that tie their roots to ancient Egypt. This one on the left, does anybody want to take a guess as to which secret society this is? Now, the building here is the headquarters of the society in Brazil. Any guesses? Well, the hint is there's a cross and there's a rose within the cross. And this, of course, is the headquarters of the Rosicrucians in Brazil. And this here is the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Both orders trace their heritage back to ancient Egypt, and both revere Thutmose III as the founder of their order. Now, I just want to, so right on top of the building, there is a statue. It's known as the Golden Boy. It's a prominent symbol of Manitoba. Holding a bundle of wheat and a torch, the Golden Boy looks hopefully north towards Manitoba's abundant natural resources. And he is modeled on a statue of Hermes, the Greek messenger god. Now, Hermes is integral to Freemasonry. The Freemasons, us Freemasons, revere him. And here's what Mackey has to say about Hermes. Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, one of the premier sources of all things Freemasonic. In all the old manuscript records which contain the legend of the craft, mention is made of Hermes as one of the founders of Freemasonry. The father of wisdom, he found one of the two pillars of stone and the science written therein, and he taught it to other men. And that's why we have a statue of Hermes right at the top of the building. Hermes is, of course, the Egyptian god Thoth. And as knowledge spread its benign influence from the east to the west, Thoth became Hermes. Hermes became, of course, Mercury. So I'm going to pause at this point and just see if there are any questions, comments, or any insights you guys want to add. Nope. Okay, let's move on. The great work. So there we see Mercury standing on top of the building, and the four corners represent art, agriculture, science, and science and industry. But they also represent the four elements of earth, wind, fire, and water. Now, the alchemist uses the four elements and combines them with mercury in order to come. But the alchemist is missing one element. He's missing one more element. If he had that one element, he could complete the great work. And the great work is an allegory for human betterment or human transformation, the completion of the soul. The alchemist uses mercury and the four elements, but he's missing one element. And the one element that he's missing is sulfur. Now, mercury is standing on top of the building, but in the basement of the building, there is this star, the black star. And we see a bunch of New Age types meditating around the black star. Mercury is standing directly superimposed upon the black star. Venus, the star of Venus, is the star of Venus. In alchemy, the equivalent of Venus is sulfur. And now the alchemist has all he needs to complete the great work. Mercury combined with sulfur is able to transform the four elements and change and create the philosopher's stone that can be used to transform base metals like lead into gold, which is, of course, an allegory. The superimposition of Mercury on Venus was also captured in the laying of the foundation stone. The foundation stone was the northeast cornerstone of the legislature was laid on June 3rd, 1914, when the planets Mercury and Venus were superimposed upon one another in the Winnipeg sky. So in two ways, Mercury was superimposed upon Venus. One is the planetary alignments when the foundation stone, the northeast cornerstone, was laid, and the other is in the architecture where Mercury stands directly above Venus. And now the alchemist has all he needs to complete the great work. What is the great work? The great work, or magnum opus, is an alchemical term for working with the primal material or the primal elements, earth, wind, air, and fire, to create the philosopher's stone. It is also an allegory for human transformation. So it's represented in different cultures. Here you can see the balance between yin and yang. And we see the serpent swallowing its own tail, the Ouroboros, which is a representation of the soul reaching completion. But in Freemasonry, how do we describe the great work, the human transformation? Does anybody want to take a guess? I'm just throwing it out there. It is with the perfect ashlar that emerges from the imperfect. The great work is represented by the perfect ashlar emerging from the imperfect in Masonic culture. In different cultures, every culture is represented a different way. It's one with the yin and yang, the serpent swallowing its tail, and the different, the creation of the philosopher's stone, turning lead into gold. This is how the Freemasons show human transformation. And the perfect ashlar emerges out of the imperfect. So now you would say, okay, now we know that the Manitoba Legislative Building is a temple dedicated to the great work, to human transformation. That you would be correct in saying that and in thinking that, but there are other levels of understanding. And we will come to the other levels of understanding shortly, but I want you to keep that in mind and let's see what else we find. Any questions, comments, bird calls? Just stop me at any point in time. It's very cozy over here, and I like that. So next, let's see how this building serves as a giant temple. Okay. Now, the outermost room of the temple is where you cleanse yourself. The room of purification, where you rid yourself of evil spirits and you wash yourself before you enter the inner chamber of the temple. This is the grand staircase, grand gallery staircase, which is the first thing you see when you enter the main building. You will see the grand gallery staircase. This room has been identified as the room of protection. What are the symbols here that say, how are you making that claim? It's a room of protection. Well, the first symbol of protection is the bisons. The bisons are, of course, a prominent symbol of Western Canada, but bisons have always stood outside temples in a host of different cultures across the world. Cattle have always guarded the front entrance of temples. Now, these bison, when they built this building, they could not figure out how to bring the bison here and place them over here without scratching the expensive Italian Carrara marble floor, because these bisons weigh tons, bronze bisons. They were just too heavy to bring in without damaging the floor. So somebody had the brilliant idea. Hey, you know what? Let's carve ice from the nearby Assiniboine River. And we can place the bison on the ice and we can slide it into the building. And then we can lift the bison off and put them where they are supposed to be. So I thought this was a brilliant idea, and I just wanted to show you in case anybody, that thought popped in anybody's mind, how did they move these heavy things in here? Now, as I mentioned, cattle have always guarded the front entrance of temples. Here in this example, we have Shiva's, Lord Shiva's sacred bull, Nandi, guarding the entrance of all Shiva temples, all Hindu temples dedicated to Shiva in India. Here, this is an example from Greece. In the Minoan culture, the temple, the bulls were always placed outside the temples. And this is my own culture. The humanoid bulls guarding the temples, that's my own culture, the Persian Zoroastrian culture, where we always have these half man, half bull creatures placed at the entrance of our temples. So if anybody has any insight into why cattle always guard the front entrance of temples, please let me know, because I have just no clue. Why is it that we always have cattle guarding temples in a host of different disparate cultures across the world? There are other symbols within the building which point to protection. The first is the goddess Athena, the bust of the goddess Athena in the building. Athena is the Greek goddess of wisdom, and she's also the protector of cities. These cattle skulls and the Burkina skulls, the lion skulls and the cattle skulls rear are symbols used across the world to ward off evil spirits. And this is the demon Medusa. And the word Medusa literally means protectress in Greece. So the outer room of the temple is the cleansing room, or the room of protection. Any questions at this point? Any comments? Just feel free to stop me. Now I want to take a slight detour. This fine universe. Within the Manitoba Legislative Building, these numbers, this sequence of numbers seems to repeat a lot. 2, 3, 5, 8, and 13, because the the golden boy is 13 feet high. 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Does anybody know what that sequence of numbers is?
I don't know the term, but 2 and 3 adds up to 5. 5 and 3 is 8. 8 and
Yes.
5 is 13.
Yes, it is the Fibonacci series, Fibonacci sequence of numbers. And from the Fibonacci sequence of numbers, we get the golden ratio, or the number phi, 1.618. And this number phi, and also the another way the number 5 is represented in the building is, just looking at my notes here. A striking example of the legislators' incorporation of the golden proportion is documented in the rotunda, whose eye of the dome divided by its diameter is almost exactly equivalent to the mean to the golden mean ratio, 1.618. So this building incorporates the golden ratio. And what is the golden ratio, and why is it important in creation? Let's look at the Bible, shall we? In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. Word was with God, and the Word was God. And a few verses later, John tells us, the Word became flesh and dwelt amongst us. So the way I read this, being a Freemason, in the beginning was the Word. In the beginning, there was the design template. The Word became flesh. The design template became the architecture of the universe. And one of the key elements in the architecture of the universe is the divine proportion. It has been used to explain the structure of the double helix structure of the DNA, the embryo in the womb, the cluster of stars, the nebula of stars. Even our human body has pi incorporated in many ways. From my elbow to my arm to my shoulder is 1, and from my elbow to my wrist is 1.6. So the number phi is built into the architecture of the universe incontrovertibly, and it is represented in architecture all throughout history. It's encoded in the pyramids, it's encoded in Chartres Cathedral, it's encoded in all major buildings across the world. And it is also very significantly highlighted in the Manitoba Legislative Building. Where do we see it in the Bible? The dimensions of the ark of Noah's Ark, as well as the Ark of the Covenant, both encode phi. Do we see it in other religions? Yes. The phi point of the earth, phi horizontally and phi vertically, falls upon a very sacred city. The phi point of the earth falls within the boundaries of the city, holy city of Mecca. Is this coincidence, or is it intelligent design? You decide.
What's the can you go back to about Mecca? Okay, how do you determine where the starting point is? I mean, it's 1.6.
1.6 horizontally and 1.6
Well, okay, horizontally, so that's like starting from the South Pole to the North Pole. Where's the 1.6? I don't understand that. Like going from north to south.
This
And
is
that's one, and that's
1.618.
okay.
This
So, latitudinally, that's true because it's like the equator.
Yes,
It's equal no matter where you start. But in the other direction, how do you decide where zero is when you're going around the Earth?
that's a good question. That's a good question. So there's a very complex article which goes into this in detail. I really don't have that answer for you. I should have researched that better. But this is the classical representation of the Earth. In any map, you will see this representation of the Earth.
Because if that's the zero, I forget my geography too. Not the prime meridian. The basically where where the international date line is. If you look at the left side, to the west of Alaska is the international date line somewhere over there. But so obviously, you know, you have to pick a starting point when you're going from east to west. Obviously, north and south, you got the poles. East to west, you have to pick an arbitrary point. Now, I'm sure you can pick an arbitrary point where it's 1 to 1.61. My only issue is, where do you pick that arbitrary point? If that is the international date line, that's at least based on something that exists. You're not just picking some point in the Pacific that makes it line up over Mecca. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, we know we have our height, we have our latitude, the longitude. Like if you started in, say, Mexico was 0, you'd be somewhere over China. I mean,
yes, yeah.
And then I'm sure someone who knows this better could explain it to us and say this is why. But that's the first question I have. Is and here's a question: When did we arrive at? Anyone could chime in here. When did we decide on latitude and longitude? When did those become the standard? And y'all know that offhand?
It's
when we picked the.
The longitude was decided to pass to the Greenwich meridian, but there's a reason why all maps of the Earth are represented this way, and I don't know the reason why. Maybe it is the international date line, but every map that you see of the globe shows you this particular.
Oh, agreed. By the way,
I don't know the reason why though. The
latitude and longitude. It was Eratosthenes in the 3rd century BC proposed a system of latitude and longitude. So my point is, latitude and longitude existed at the time Mecca was set upon. It was decided as the central holy land for Islam. So
yeah,
it did exist at that point. So there may be something to that.
Yeah, I wish I'd done more research on this, but you know, if you Google, and I did research on whether this is just a meme or whether it's really true. And there are detailed papers pointing to this fact that the 5 point of the Earth falls within the boundaries of the holy city of Mecca, and this is peer reviewed and researched, and you can Google it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer for you right off the bat.
Well, I just bring it up. You like us to kind of chime in as we're going. I only bring this up just to say, for everyone's consideration, when you're doing things such as you're doing here, where you're saying, look at this interesting feature that I found. On the one hand, you can say, which I think is your premise, that everything that I'm showing you, someone made a conscious decision or was somehow driven to pick this, and it is here, like the Pyramid of Giza. It is where it is for a very specific reason, and someone chose to put it there for that reason. The contrary opinion is, oh, what a wonderful coincidence, where they built the Pyramid of Giza also happens to map to this. It's kind of hard to prove that it's, I mean, you can argue either way, just to be a devil's advocate.
Absolutely. And I want you to be, I want you to be a devil's advocate though, because it gets me thinking on different directions and future presentations, future talks, and I enjoy the conversation also.
I mean, things like 1.6, you know, the phi ratio, the golden ratio, I want to try and use the right terms. That is demonstrable. And, you know, you can look at the universe and say, yes, this is demonstrable, this ratio. It appears over and over and over again. It can't just be a coincidence. And obviously, when they built, you know, when architects build structures like this, it's pretty obvious they did things for a purpose. It's not just a coincidence. When you say this thing exists at a certain point on the earth and there's a significance, that's the place where I say, well, maybe it's a coincidence. And, you know, if we look hard enough, we can find some numerical meaning for every building that exists wherever it is in the world. It depends on where you start from. You say, look, this is exactly 2 miles from here. Yeah, but what's here? Well, it's 2 miles from it. Yeah, but so what? It's 2 miles from somewhere. I don't know. It's I'm not outright disputing what you're putting out there. I'm just saying that's food for thought. The presumption is this is intentional to represent certain numerical concepts that are important to Masons. But on the other hand, sometimes well, that's a happy coincidence, or someone just happened to draw a line to say, look, this is here, when it may just simply be that's simply where it is. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. So the other numbers that are represented within this building, there's a tremendous amount of 13s. There's 13 steps in every flight of stairs. There's 13 seats in the gallery. This light has 13 bulbs. There's 13 lights down the hallway. The bison is 13 feet long. The statue of the golden boy Hermes is 13 feet high. And something significant happened on Friday the 13th, 1307. And I guess everybody does know what it is. Everybody in this room should know what it is. The Templars were all arrested and burnt at the stake. So that's also shown, represented here in the building. Now, another slight detour I'm going to take is the number of the beast. This building, the grand staircase, the grand hallway staircase is 66.6 feet wide. In fact, it's a square. It's 66.6 feet wide and 66.6 feet long. And people look at this and say, "Oh, yeah, it's the Freemasons and they're Satanists and they're this." But there's a reason for it. 66.6 feet. Sorry. So let's see what Revelation 13:18 says. There's the wisdom, let him who has understanding calculate number of the beast, for it is number of a man, his number is 666. 666 is also represented in other significant pieces of architecture. The Louvre pyramid has 666 rhombi. The 666 rhombi within the Louvre pyramid. The Washington Monument is 6,660 inches high. Once again, the 666. The Kaaba, the most holiest point in Islam, to the western wall, the Wailing Wall, is 666.6 nautical miles. And why are they using nautical miles here, though? Well, there are 6 multiplied by 600 nautical miles in the median circumference of the earth. And the circumference of the earth also encodes the 666. Where else is it encoded? In creation. The continent of Africa from its westernmost point to its easternmost point on the map is 66.6 degrees wide. From the tip of Africa, Benghazi, to the northernmost point is 66.6 degrees high. From the ecliptic plane, at the angle of the Earth to the North Pole is 66.6 degrees. And the orbital path of the Earth spins at 6,660 miles per hour.
That's interesting.
But you know what? South America is also 66.6 degrees high. And from the tip of South Africa to the tip of South America is 6,660 kilometers. Sorry. This is Kepler's third law. Any planet's orbital period raised to the power of 0.6666 equals the planet's mean distance from the sun. And this is true for Mercury, Venus, all of them, with accuracy of 99.9, almost 100% for Earth. It's 100% for Earth. And it's very close for all the others. Now,
Well, only the inner planet. Only if you go back. That does not apply for Uranus and Neptune because they are very much at a different. They're at a different sort of orbit. That's interesting out through Saturn. So.
Yeah. And the 666, there's multiple theories around 666. First of all, it's the book of the Revelation of St. John the Divine is the only Gnostic book that somehow made it into the Bible past the Council of Nicaea. And being a Gnostic book, it is not a book that should be read literally. It's a mystical text. They say that one of the theories around 666 is that there are 36 constellations in the sky. And 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 up to 36 sums up to 666. Another theory is that we are carbon-based life forms. Human beings are carbon-based life forms. And the most abundant element, most abundant carbon isotope in the universe is the carbon-12 atom. This contains 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. So what the Bible is essentially saying, let's read the verse again. Here is wisdom, let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, his number is 666. And this is ancient Hebrew and ancient Greek. So when they say 666, they don't mean 666. They mean 6, 6, 6. What this verse is telling us is that man is not spirit. Man is a beast because he has carbon added to his spirit. Being a carbon-based life form, man becomes a beast. He cannot be spirit because he has carbon added to him. And that is one interpretation of this verse. I'm not a theologian or anything like that. But this is what this is the theory that I subscribe to. There are other people who say, no, man is a beast because man is releasing all this carbon into the atmosphere and it's going to destroy it's going to cook the planet eventually. I don't think the Bible is pointing to this particular point in time that, man is burning all this carbon. It is pointing to the essential nature of mankind. Being a carbon-based life form, man is not a spirit. Man cannot be a god because he has carbon added to him. And the number of the beast is the number of mankind. And that number is 666. Up to you as to interpret it however you want. I'd like to hear what you guys think, but yeah. And this is the first Apple computer was $666.66. Steve Jobs, they made fun of him and said, "Oh, you're the beast of Revelation and all that." And he said, "No, look, Steve Wozniak likes symmetry, and he likes repeating numbers, so that's why I chose 666." And Woz came out and said, "Oh yeah, because the cost of the computer was $500, and they added a third to the markup for taxes or something, and that's why it came to 666.66." But this is just something from popular culture. It has no significance to this presentation. I just showed it for fun. Anyway, let's get back to the temple. Sorry, not temple. The legislative building. Okay. So we saw the outer room of the temple, right? That was the cleansing room, where there's the room of protection where you purify yourself, get rid of all evil, you wash yourself properly, and then you come to the altar. You walk in through and you come to this balustrade. This room is built like a giant wheel, and it's built like the Greek temples. Now, if this is the altar, the question becomes, who's the deity? Who are we worshipping here at the altar? You know what? Let's take a closer look at the mural above the door and see if that can give us any clues as to who we are worshipping here. This is a mural that's supposed to represent World War I. And you see a man with exposed breast being led by his brother in the first degree. Once again, supporting the theory that this is a giant temple to Freemasonry. Right? Case closed. But there are other levels of understanding. I want you to keep that in mind. There's other levels of understanding over here. People within this image have also seen the Passion of the Christ, and they see the halo, the shirt, the white shirt forms a sort of a halo behind the man. And he seemed to be carrying a wooden object, some people say it looks like a wooden cross. So you also see the Passion of the Christ over here. So one of the other possibilities is that the deity being worshipped here is the Christ. But there's another level of understanding. If we look closely, the man in blue over here is bowing before the Virgin holding a baby. There is Freemasonry here, possibly Christ, and there is a Virgin with a baby. So this is very cleverly hidden here, and this is an Easter egg. I know you like Easter eggs, Chris. And this is a cool Easter egg for you. I have notes over here because I'm not really good with names and dates. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he painted this.
If it was painted, like if it'd be in a mural. It probably was like they commissioned an artist to paint. We want you to paint a mural to go in this room. So
yeah, I read about this artist, and he is notorious for hiding things within his paintings. That's probably the reason why he was chosen in the first place. But this is supposed to be a representation of World War I. This was built in between 1911 and 1920. World War I was raging at that time. So Now we come to the innermost chamber of the government building, the sanctuary. This is the Lieutenant Governor's reception suite. And the dimensions of this room, Brother Frank Albo received special permission to enter this room because this is the only room in the building that is off limits to the general public. He received special permission to go inside this room and measure it. And the measurements that he found of this room were 20 cubits. It's a cube. 20 cubits by 20 cubits by 20 cubits. Does anybody know any other rooms within temples that are 20 cubits by 20 cubits by 20 cubits? And that are off limits to the general public. And it is the Holy of Holies within King Solomon's temple. The Holy of Holies within King Solomon's temple was a cube, 20 cubits by 20 cubits by 20 cubits. But where is it? Where is the most sacred object in all of Judaism? Where is the Ark of the Covenant? If this is the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant should be behind blue curtains. The Bible tells us the Ark of the Covenant was behind decorative blue cloth. I don't see it anywhere. Do you see it? Let's just go to the window and let's look up. Let's go to the window and look up and see what we see. There's this chest. This is known as the war chest. It represents the monies collected to fund World War I, and it's Canada's contribution to World War I. The Bible tells us that the Ark of the Covenant was protected by winged beings, the cherubim, the winged beings who protected the Ark of the Covenant. Here we see two winged beings, a Roman centurion and a Native American chief, both guarding the Ark, guarding the war chest. Now, Brother Frank Albo took detailed measurements of this box, and the dimensions of the box exactly match the dimensions of the Ark of the Covenant as given in the Bible. So this is the representation of the Ark of the Covenant. Now,
I had a question as an aside. Okay, so this is the legislative building, this is where the the body that meets there is what is it called?
Manitoba Legislature, the provincial government of Manitoba.
Okay, so the governor, there's a governor and lieutenant governor of Manitoba.
Yes, there's the premier of Manitoba, is equivalent to your governor of the state. Sort of thing.
Okay. And
97 years.
Are his offices there, or is this the?
I think
in DC we have Congress where the legislature meets. They don't live there, but they work there. And then you have the White House where the president lives and works. His office is there. So I was curious. You said it's the lieutenant governor's receiving room. Is there a governor's receiving room, and what is the lieutenant governor's significance for the legislature?
We don't have a governor. We have a lieutenant governor.
You have a lieutenant governor, but not a governor.
No, lieutenant governor is the Queen's representative the Queen is the head of state of Canada.
Okay.
So his representative is the lieutenant governor.
So, Chris, our equivalent of a governor is a premier.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So the legislative building is basically your sort of state or provincial capital, where
and it's
local laws, the province, which is equivalent of a state.
Right. I was just trying to
we
figure.
have provincial members of parliament, and then we have the federal, which meets in Ottawa.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure the lieutenant governor's role. Basically, why was the lieutenant governor have
It's a ceremonial. It's ceremonial. It's just a representative of the Queen. So it basically scales down from. So there's a governor general, which is for the whole country. Then there's lieutenant governors, which is for the provinces.
Okay. So he's not a lieutenant governor. Okay. So like in Virginia, we elect a governor and a lieutenant governor. It's not that in any sense.
They're appointed roles.
Right. Okay. So there's a governor general for the whole country. Okay. So it's
Yes, appointed as well.
Okay. Yeah. See, when I hear lieutenant governor, I think of like in Virginia, we elect a governor and lieutenant governor, and the lieutenant governor is basically like the vice president of the state. If the governor is unable to fulfill his duties, the lieutenant governor steps in temporarily, and they have duties with the legislature too and stuff. But okay, so just it's the same word, totally different context. That's what I was getting at. So
Yeah.
it's a receiving room for the Queen's representative in that government body. Okay, I got you. I just want to clarify because I would ask like, where's the governor's receiving room? That was my first thought.
No, that's
But
not.
that is, so technically, that is like the senior most person. If the lieutenant governor was in that building, he'd be the senior most person in that whole body because he's the Queen's direct representative for that province.
And the Queen is head of the government of Canada. So his representative, he would be the most he would be the most highest person, but he has no power. He's a ceremonial role model.
I got you. Okay, thanks. I just want to put that in context as an American. It's like that didn't make any sense, so now it does. So. So we covered the deity. The deity is Freemasonry or Christ or the Virgin holding the baby here. But there's another level of understanding. If we walk up to the circular balustrade here, and we look down, directly down, we see something. This room is called, we see the star. And this room is called the Pool of the Black Star. And it is the most mysterious room in all of the building. And I want to take some time with your permission, I want to take some time here in this room. Black stars. If you look straight up, you would see you'd see that balustrade above, in the room above. And if you could see, you'd see the dome. So if you could look through the dome, you'd see Mercury directly above you, correct?
Mercury is standing right in the center of this, star. Now, black stars play a very prominent role in science fiction, in mythology, Hindu mythology, and various mythology around the world. Let's not get into that. But this is an octogram star. It's an 8-pointed star. And there are some acoustic properties of this room which are really incredible. Apparently, if you stand in the center of the star and you speak, you can be heard all throughout the building. I've not experienced it. I've not been to the building. It's on my bucket list for sure. I hope it will be on yours too after this. I have not covered all aspects of the building because I want to leave some mystery, and I want to leave something for you to really experience for the first time when you get there. So this is an octogram star. What does it remind you of? It's at the center of the building. It's at the navel point of the building. Obviously, everyone here is a Freemason. It reminds us of the blazing star that is found in the center of all Masonic lodges. That's just one layer or one level of understanding. Why is the star black though? The fact is that all stars are eventually black. The sunspots or the gaps within the burning mantle expose the blackness underneath. And this cosmic secret was is represented in this 1920 building here. So just food for thought. As I mentioned, it is an octogram star, 8-pointed star, and the 8-pointed star has always represented the sun. Reverence for the sun. For 10,000 years at least, people have always worshipped our day star, our sun. This is the Konark Sun Temple in India. You can see the scale of the temple with the people standing on the side of the temple. You can see how big it is actually. It is built in the form of a giant chariot. Here are the wheels of the chariot. Up above, there were 7 horses pulling the chariot. And the sun god Surya would be pulling the chariot. Now, this temple was largely destroyed either by invading armies or by an earthquake. No, the history is unclear. But the 7 horses pulling the sun are an allegory. They represent something. Do you want to take a guess as to what the seven horses pulling the sun represent? It can only be 7.
The planets.
No. It's light when it's refracted. It's broken up into the 7 colors of the rainbow. The violet, indigo, blue, the vibgyor of the rainbow. I mean, of light. The sun is always pulled by 7 horses. Sorry, 7 horses, because representing the 7 colors of the of the light spectrum. If we look at the chariots, if you look at the wheels of the chariot, once again, it's an octogram star, an 8-pointed star. But this is not just true in Indian culture. This is the star of Lakshmi, Hindu star of Lakshmi, which is represented by an 8-pointed star. This is is Vatican Square. Here also you see an 8-pointed star, and the obelisk in the center acts as a giant sundial, illuminating the different points of the square. This is one of the oldest representations of the octogram star in the world. It's 3,500 years old. It's ancient Sumeria. It's the star of Inanna. And Inanna is is the precursor of Isis. The Sumerian culture was only discovered in the turn of the century, 19th century, turn of the century. And that's why all the obsession is about Isis, because the Inanna is the older representation of Isis, but that culture was not discovered until pretty recently. This is the Buddhist wheel of Dharma. The next one, Buddhist wheel of Dharma, showing an 8-pointed star. This is the Washington Monument. If we extend the lines from the pyramidion to the floor, once again, it forms an octogram star. The Egyptian Ogdoad, showing all the gods, 8-pointed star. In Islam, we have the Rub al-Hizab. This is the Celtic calendar, all 8-pointed stars. Now, this is the Celtic calendar, again 8-pointed star. Christ Pantocrator, 8-pointed star. Here, the 8-pointed star is the octogram star is represented fractally in Muhammad's tomb in Medina in Islam. I want to take a slight detour here, if you don't mind. The word pyramid, pira, related to pyro, means fire. Mid, obviously middle. Pyramid means fire in the middle. Okay. Ancient Aliens did a whole episode on this in pyramid power plants. the pyramids are supposedly, according to the theory, the pyramids were used as power plants, and there was fire emerging from the top of the pyramids. Have you seen fire emerging out of objects in the Bible? Once again, you go back to the Ark of the Covenant. The Israelites were said to follow a column of fire and a column of cloud. And there's a theory put forward by a Swiss physicist. His name is Nassim Haramein. He has put forward a theory that the Ark of the Covenant was originally an Egyptian artifact. And his support of the theory is that within the Great Pyramid, this is the Great Pyramid of Giza, this is the king's chamber. The sarcophagus within the king's chamber, the dimensions of the sarcophagus are such that the Ark of the Covenant would fit perfectly into the king's chamber. So his theory is that Moses took a compact power source out of the Ark of the Covenant, out of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and brought it back to Israel, where it became the most sacred object in Judaism. And he says there was definitely something of power stored within the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant appears in the Bible, and it has the ability to kill people. It has the ability to cause city walls to crumble. It causes cancerous burns and boils. The Philistines got hold of the ark, and they all suffered with boils and outbreaks. And he says there was something within the Ark of the Covenant. There was a compact power source within the Ark of the Covenant. His theory is that it was a mini black hole. I don't know the physics around this, but he says that many black holes can be created in particle accelerators, but they only exist for like a split second, a fraction of a second. His theory is that somehow the ancients found a way to sustain a mini black hole. And another level of understanding is that the octogram star, first of all, people say, okay, it represents the sun, and the Manitoba Legislative Building is a giant sun temple. It's a giant solar temple. But there is another level of understanding wherein people say that it represents God within the Ark of the Covenant, or the image of God, which would appear between the wings of the cherubim within the Ark of the Covenant. Whether it was a mini black hole or it was something else, radioactive, we don't know. But the Bible tells us that the Levites, the people charged with handling the Ark of the Covenant, had to wear gold, protecting their chest, genitals, and the head. Gold, one of the things about gold is it's a powerful radiation shield. The Ark of the Covenant itself is made of acacia wood lined with gold. And the innermost chamber, the Holy of Holies, also had gold in the construction of it. So there is a lot of evidence for this, but it is circumstantial evidence. We don't know at this point in time. I'm getting kind of obsessed with the Ark of the Covenant. Chris, please conduct an intervention or something here.
Wow. Can we go ahead and wrap things up?
Yeah, okay. All right. So the Ark of the Covenant, maybe the black star is a representation of the Ark of the Covenant, the representation of the sun. It is also it's also the star of Venus, or the star of, and Venus is a very important deity. In fact, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem was built on the site of a temple dedicated to Venus. I'm sure a lot of us don't know that. Why is it here, though? this is clearly, it is the most elaborate legislative building amongst all the provinces in Canada, and it's a very important building for all of mankind. It should be in an imperial city like Rome, or in London, or maybe even New York or DC. Why is it here though? Why is it here in Winnipeg? There is something about the location of Winnipeg that the building as designed and the black star within the building could only be here. I left the clue in the title of the presentation. A sacred temple at the heart of North America. At Winnipeg, where the two mighty rivers, the Assiniboine meets the Red River, lies the geographic center of the North American continent. And the black star could only be situated here. I'll come to the reason for it. People say, the researchers say, that the building, it serves as a magical charm, a magical talisman. They see the radiating topology of Winnipeg, the way Winnipeg is connected to all the other cities in North America, all the major cities. It's connected to Denver, San Francisco. Then they see the radiating topology of Winnipeg, and they point to other radiating topologies. This is the Egyptian sun disk. You see a similarly, the sun disk blesses the earth with its radiating rays. This is Old Sarum in England. It's the source. It's the source where all the ley lines in England meet, or all the ley lines in England converge. Just as the sun disk blesses the earth with its rays, and Old Sarum blesses England with the ley lines, so also does the black star within the heart of the building, within the heart of North America, bless the continent with its benevolence. The black star, whether it represents God, Venus, the image of God within the Ark of the Covenant, or the sun itself, it could only be situated here, right at the heart of, right at the center of North America, so that it could bless the continent with its rays, or with its benevolence. And that's why it had to be here. It could not be anywhere else, the building as designed. And that's it. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed it. I did.
Thank you, Brother Tehrani. I do appreciate your presentation. You took a couple, maybe one too many detours, I don't know, but a lot of interesting stuff, but I kind of wanted to keep us more on track there. But it definitely food for thought. I hadn't seriously considered Winnipeg being the center of the continent, but that's kind of one of the advantages of being an American. We tend to think like, well, there's America, and then there's the US, and there's Canada up here, and Mexico down there, y'all are there, but geographically, yes, that's more, the center is north of us, but we don't think of it that way. Any questions for Brother Tehrani? I know you paused for questions along the way. I guess people weren't as conversational as they have been. We had a couple of people join along the way and then drop again. So anyone have any comments or any questions before we wrap up? Okie doke. All right, then. I wanted to mention, thank you again, Brother Tehrani, for your presentation. Our next Unstated is going to be July 9th, and that will be Brother Bob Uzel, who I believe is from the Grand Lodge, Texas. He will be speaking on Bishop Howard Zebulon Plummer, who was Grand Master of Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Virginia and the Imperial Lecturer of the Prince Hall Shriners. So that should be the most interesting talk. That will be in 2 weeks. Look forward to having him there. And as always, I appreciate everyone who joined us today. It's kind of a smaller crowd, but this will be up on YouTube. If you are watching this, please like and subscribe us on YouTube. And I want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting Virginia Research Lodge in our ongoing unstated meetings. We cover almost anything Masonic related here. I do my best to find a variety of speakers and give people a chance to give talks on various things, Masonic, esoteric, and exoteric. There really is no restriction. And I think I found a wide variety along the way. I look back on previous presentations and we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of things that I haven't heard discussed even in research lodges. We seem to be covering a lot of different things, and that's really pretty cool. So I'm definitely enjoying having this medium available to us and giving people a chance to speak and interact. It's gone really well. I'm really proud of the body of work we built along the way. So if no one else has anything to say, I'm sorry none of our other officers from Virginia Research Lodge could join us today. Our senior warden and our master join us pretty regularly. But good to have you all with us. And y'all have a good day.